In today's economic landscape, a new form of financial strain has emerged as a prominent feature of young adulthood: the crippling burden of student loan debt. This burden isn't limited to just a few $1,000s. For many, it's akin to a small mortgage, with the added challenge of higher interest rates and less flexible repayment options. As graduates enter the workforce, they find themselves shackled by a debt that often influences their career choices, living situations, and long-term financial planning. This exploration into the student loan debt crisis will unveil the multifaceted impact of this burgeoning issue, emphasizing its role as a barrier to the personal and economic growth of millions. Chapter 2: The Seeds of the Debt Crisis. The genesis of the student loan debt crisis can be traced back to a confluence of economic and policy decisions. Over the years, as higher education became synonymous with greater job security and potential earnings, the demand for college degrees soared. Concurrently, government funding in many regions has dwindled, shifting the financial burden directly onto students and their families. This shift resulted in a dramatic increase in tuition fees, which universities justify by citing the need to maintain facilities, pay competitive salaries, and offer state-of-the-art services. These escalating costs have forced more students to rely on substantial loans, embedding a cycle of debt into the fabric of higher education. Chapter 3: The Burden Builds. Upon graduation, the reality of student loan debt begins to manifest more tangibly. Graduates find themselves entering a job market that may not fulfill the financial promise that a higher education once seemed to guarantee. The substantial monthly payments impact not just discretionary spending, but also foundational financial decisions. Debt burdens lead to postponement of significant life events, such as purchasing a home or starting a family. Furthermore, the psychological weight of this debt can lead to significant stress and anxiety, complicating personal and professional life. As these issues compound, the societal implications grow clearer, illustrating a generational struggle with debt that could have long-lasting economic repercussions. Chapter 4: A Tipping Point. The student loan debt crisis reaches a tipping point as the collective burden becomes too significant to ignore. This phase is characterized by intense media coverage, heart-rending personal stories, and growing student activism. The public, educators, and some policymakers begin to recognize that the soaring debt levels are not sustainable for individuals or for the economy. This awareness is amplified by economic studies, showing the broader impacts of the debt crisis, including reduced home ownership rates and stunted economic growth. The resulting public discourse and the heightened media attention serve as catalysts for calls to action, demanding reforms to the structures of financing higher education. Chapter 5: Searching for Solutions. As awareness translates into action, various stakeholders begin to explore and implement reforms aimed at mitigating the impact of student loans. Government bodies consider and enact policies that aim to cap interest rates, forgive certain debts, and expand repayment options based on income, making debt management more feasible for graduates. Educational institutions are pushed to increase transparency about the potential financial outcomes of degrees and to consider ways to reduce tuition costs. While these measures do not eliminate existing debts, they represent progressive steps toward reducing future burdens and rectifying the systemic issues within the financing of higher education. Chapter 6: A New Paradigm. The resolution of this crisis involves a transformative rethinking of how society values and funds higher education. The emerging paradigm champions accessibility and sustainability, emphasizing education as a public good rather than a heavily commodified service. Innovative educational models and funding mechanisms, including employer-sponsored programs and partnerships between educational institutions and communities, start to replace traditional debt-financed education. These changes reflect a broader shift towards a system that aims to empower students with knowledge without encumbering them with financial burdens. The student loan debt crisis highlights a critical crossroads in educational and economic policy. As society grapples with this issue, the path forward requires a collaborative, multifaceted approach involving governments, educational institutions, businesses, and students themselves. By redefining the financial models of education, we can prevent debt from undermining the futures of the next generation. The ongoing discussions and reforms will shape how we value education and support societal progress, emphasizing the need for systems that foster both individual growth and collective well-being.